Click kaya959.co.za.
This is how we do it.
To download the Point of View podcast.
Well, a very good evening to you, coming to you live from the Gauteng Legislature this evening. We are not in our studios. We are sitting right here in a lovely boardroom at the Gauteng Legislature. And I'm surrounded by people that you and I actually should be familiarizing ourselves with on a regular basis. And often what we do on Point of View, we often speak to principals, the executives. We speak to MECs, ministers and the like. Actually, part of what we need to be doing is to speak a bit more with people who are our mouths and are really our representatives in the true sense of the word. So I've got committee chair people of Economic Transformation Cluster here today, and it's going to be a very open roundtable. And listen, you're also welcome to be a part of this conversation. 086 00959. There is no stupid question. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to enlighten everybody, ourselves especially, because this is how government should work. And I think you may remember yesterday we had a conversation about what was happening in Tembisa. And essentially for me, what came out of that conversation was miscommunication. The disconnect between government and the people. Not that the processes in council were not happening. It's that people didn't understand what was actually happening in council. And council said, but we spoke to everybody, we passed the budgets, everybody knows. But people said, but when? Yes, it happened. So there is a genuine disconnect sometimes between what happens in government and our daily lives, because, we also live. You have your children, you've got to feed your family, and you've got to live. And so you miss some things. And it's a good opportunity for us to familiarize ourselves with people who do part of that work on our behalf, the oversight role, where they can check in on things that are supposed to be happening and then also give us some feedback. So I've got here in our lovely boardroom, as I said, in Gauteng Legislature. And by the way, thank you all for being with us. And we really appreciate being invited by you all into your wonderful space. So let me start introducing my guests. It's Honorable Jaco Mulder, who is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, and nice having us.
Thank you, and I want to also introduce Honorable Andiswa Musai, who is chair of the Finance Portfolio Committee. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Pamela.
Oh, we can't hear you. I don't
hear me.
Yes, now we can. We can. Welcome.
I've got a soft voice, but good evening, Pamela, and good evening to the audience at large.
Honorable Greg Schneerman, who is a portfolio chair of Transport and Logistics. Good evening to you.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and greetings to your listeners as well.
And then there's also Honorable Thulani Ndlovu, who is a chair of the Infrastructure Development Portfolio Committee. A very good evening to you.
Good evening to you, House Pimelo, and greetings to your listeners at home. Thank you.
So I'm going to every now and then remind everybody who's talking, but if you can, maybe also help me as well along the way, so that the listeners are familiar by. They wouldn't probably remember the voices, but just to identify yourself. I just want to start here, and any one of you can pick up on this. The relevance and importance of the distinction between government and the legislature, which I think sometimes the distinction is missed in the roles that you play. Honorable Mulder, maybe you want to pick up on that?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Pardon me. Parliament, and in this instance, the Gauteng Legislature, consists of two sections mainly. It's the executive part and then the legislative part. Now, we as committee chairs represent the legislative part, where we conduct oversight over the work of the executive and the departments, holding them accountable, and that's mainly the difference.
Why do you think, Honorable Masai, do you think there's such a misunderstanding? I think generally when you go in and have stakeholder engagements, people look at you and they want to blame you and they want to ask you, why are you not doing this? Where's the missing link between how people understand government, particularly at a provincial level, at this level, and why they don't understand your role specifically?
I I think the reason people don't understand our role is because maybe we don't go out there, enough. We don't go on road shows to educate people on the work of the government. And the reason why we're having this interview, in fact, today, is to ensure that people are empowered. And people need to know that, in fact, they are empowered by the Constitution. Both the executive and the legislature, or the provincial government, whether it's provincial government, local government, and national government.
Yeah.
That is the right from the Constitution. And they need to make sure that their voices are heard because of the Constitution. So they do have power. So that's the reason why we are here.
Yeah.
People don't know the powers that they have. People are not empowered with information, and we want to make sure that people are able to distinguish between what the executive does, which is service delivery. We do oversight over the work that they do as the executive.
So, Honourable Chairman, what that would mean in your case, for instance, is that you're not the one implementing the job of government. You're the one that checks up on whether the portfolio, the transport department in Gauteng has actually done its job. Maybe pick up on that and elaborate a little bit on that.
No, thanks very much, and that's you're 100% correct there. So our role is really to go and have a look at what is the department doing.
Yeah.
To interrogate.
Yeah.
When it comes to expenditure and spending money and resources, is to really satisfy ourselves that those resources are being used efficiently and effectively. But beyond that, we don't just, we don't sit in a committee room
Yes.
and just have presentations and engage that way. We actually go out onto the ground
Yeah.
and physically go to construction sites where roads are being built, physically go and have a look and assess for ourselves whether what the department is telling us is actually happening. Because it's easy to be given a report.
Yeah.
But if you can go firsthand, go and assess, how far the work is, what work is being done. So just to give an example,
Yes.
a few months ago we had that incident on the Gautrain where a private property owner
Yes.
decided to drill
Yes.
a borehole
Yes.
and went through the tunnel. So we got a briefing, but as a committee we went into the tunnel. And we went to go and assess for ourselves the damage and work that was being done to actually repair that. So that's the kind of work that we do in exercising oversight over the department.
Honourable Ndlovu, you have the tougher job. Infrastructure, it cannot be easy. The number of projects that I think we hear of every single day that started, and perhaps there was a great intention, and we'll get to maybe Honourable Musai here to tell us about the fact that there was great intention, money was given, money was allocated, but 10 years, 20 years down the line, the project hardly moved anywhere. And so, at which point do you do the oversight role? Because we hear this often where we are told, well, that school, was started 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's still on the ground. And then a new government says, well, actually it wasn't our administration. It was the old administration. At which point do you come in to actually check whether the foundation is done, the second phase is done? Just maybe give us more insights.
Well, the oversight is an ongoing program. It cannot conclude. I mean, even when we build a school, and conclude building a school, we must still do oversight into that school to check if the school was built correctly. There are no defects when it is handed over, the usage of the school. Because remember, the department itself is an arbiter of the property in the province. So it's not just that we give the school and then we are done. So oversight is an ongoing program, and it must continuously happen because the same schools that we built or that the department built also must be maintained. So we continuously do oversight.
And your role is also a little bit more complicated in the sense that you rely on other departments to also communicate. You're almost like the landlord sometimes. And you rely on, if it is a school, it would be the Department of Education doing its bit to make sure that they inform you that the school is okay because they're the ones that asked you to help build the school and so on. So how intricate is that? The fact that you are the landlord who has to engage with so many other other committees that are themselves supposed to be doing oversight roles on those departments?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a very tricky one, and it also has its advantages and disadvantages. For example, I will say when the department must build a school for Department of Education, the budget is done by the education, and then the department must then approve the budget and start building the school. But if, for example, we say the school is 120 million over 3 years, and the Department says of Education now says, no, DID, we are going to give you 40 million this year, and then we are going to get another 40 next year, and another 40 in the last concluding year. And next year, Education, or in the second year, Department of Education has problems. Then it means DID can't continue building the school. That is why you will find that sometimes we'll have project delays that are unnecessary. So we need to call for either ring-fencing or security or securing of the finances. Once we agree on the project that it's 120, the money is taken and put somewhere so that we don't find these unnecessary delays, because being a client service provider is very critical, but the reality is that it depends on the clients whether you are able to conclude on time or not. We do have our own cases where it is the department that delays the projects with their own internal things, or either the community can delay the project, but most of our projects are delayed because of financial security. In government, they will always say we budget for this clinic and this clinic is going to be this much, but they then, when they reprioritize, then it becomes negative to who? To the implementer, which is the infrastructure development and property management.
Honourable Mulder, we are now seeing climate change affect absolutely everybody, not just in this country, not just in this province, globally. It's a phenomena, and just the changing ways in which departments and governments are supposed to adjust very, very quickly. Talk to me about the role that your portfolio committee has to be doing in this regard, in, I suppose, also guiding and steering what is new terrain, I suppose, for a department like agriculture and rural development.
Yes, Pamela, thank you for asking this. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, the Portfolio Committee for Environment called municipalities, all local governments in the province, to appear before the committee and give us indication on the level of their anti-pollution policies. So we also hold local government accountable as far as that is concerned. So we had a real thorough session with them all. And even today, the Portfolio Committee for Environment and Agriculture met with a certain municipality in Gauteng about water pollution.
Yeah.
Also littering, holding them accountable. And we started with the process in 2024 during the end of October, when this municipality, the mayor, the municipal manager, and the designated MMCs and officials, senior managers, appeared before the committee. And today, in this meeting, they had to come and report back to us on progress. So what I'm trying to say is a committee can also act proactive, not only reactive.
And I, with particularly your portfolio and the role, the Department of Rural Development and Agriculture, it's tricky, right? Because if I live in city X, let's say it's Johannesburg, right? And I have waste management problem just around the corner from me, I actually don't care or know whether it's the responsibility of the of the local municipality or whether it is the province. At some point, or I'm just angry at all government, you know. And that point you just made about how you then have to make sure that local government itself has to be accountable, because essentially their role intertwines with your role and your oversight role.
Yeah, that's quite right. And what we often find is that in some areas, in some municipalities, they haven't got a capacity to address these issues. And then this should be escalated up to the province. If the province would not in a position to handle it, then it would be escalated to a national level.
Honourable Masai, the tougher job, I think yours is to also that issue of, there is the issue of service delivery. We all expect service delivery. And again, oftentimes I have no idea whether the clinic I'm going to is a provincial clinic or is a municipal clinic. I don't know. I don't care. I'm just upset that I'm not getting service delivery. And sometimes I knock at my mayor's office and they tell me, no, it's not ours. It's the province's. Your role, I think, in a way, is where things meeting of all our priorities and whether the budgets allocated will talk to the priorities of government.
Yes, our role as the Finance Portfolio Committee is to ensure that, the Premier during SOPA, he will make certain commitments and priorities in terms of the budget. So we must make sure and ensure that all the departments, they adequately allocate a budget and those commitments are intertwined, with the resources. But we then ensure that in every quarter we go back to the House, because there are house sitting, where we are able to now, as a committee, we are going to raise our concerns. We are also going to raise our recommendations as a committee, having looked at what is it that the departments would have budgeted for, because they do have annual performance plans, whether those annual performance plans are also linked in with the budget, and if the money has been spent. So where we are is to ensure that, the usage of the public funds is done properly, and obviously that the departments must be accountable. The departments must be transparent in terms of that. So we normally raise questions. We will send questions to the department to ask them so they can come back to the committee. When we have those hearings with the departments, we do have hearings with the public. Then they're able to come and communicate where they are, what were their plans in terms of the targets, and if they have met. If they have not met their plans, then they would have to come back to us and tell us how will they mitigate against that.
I guess to Honourable Ndlovu's question or point he made earlier about ring fencing of some of the money and allocations is a tricky one, is it not? Because things do happen. And I've seen this over and over again, where every single year sometimes money goes back to Treasury in the province, and they then have to go and start explaining themselves and so on. And yet the actual infrastructure or whatever the project is has not actually materialized. Just talk to me about those challenges in your understanding of why is it that it's so difficult to meet the budget with the priorities of all of us, actually, not just government.
In fact, I think the MEC of Finance, MEC Maile, went on an interview where he was able to explain that which funds were returned. It's actually conditional grants. It's money that comes from national that the departments would have been given without them having requested that money. So then it would mean that then it's difficult for them to spend the money. So, but they must indicate before time so that then the money is able to be rolled over and be reallocated to Gauteng as a budget.
Honourable Chairman, what teeth does an oversight committee have? A portfolio committee like yourselves, what teeth do you have? If you see some transgressions and you can see, there's a little bit of dilly-dallying here and there, or things are not moving, and you feel that there is just perhaps lack of enthusiasm or whatever the case may be, what teeth do portfolio committees have?
Well, I think part of the options that are available to us is, firstly, when we would engage with the department, let's say on a quarterly report, and let's say that we find that there are things that we're extremely concerned about. We can make recommendations, also raise our concerns, and ask for a written report. We give them a particular time period to come back to us on the particular areas that we've got concerns about. But a committee, in terms of the rules of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, could go a step further and also conduct an inquiry which delves deeper into a particular area that may need a lot more interrogation, and out of that would come specific recommendations as well. Recommendations are taken to the sitting of the House, which we call it, in the Legislature, and they're formally adopted. So those recommendations are actually binding on departments. So when we make recommendations in our reports, in our oversight reports, they become binding. And the departments are expected to either respond or to implement, some of the recommendations that we're making as committees. So we do have teeth, and we are able to see results coming out of that as well.
Well, as I said to you earlier on, we are broadcasting live from Gauteng Legislature today, and we're in conversation with the Economic Transformation Cluster, really speaking about all the various things that they are doing, as well as their oversight role. But a very key point here is for you to be a part of this conversation as well. 086 00959. You can also send a voice note on 063 688 0959. It's really your chance also to ask a question. No question is stupid. So let's take a quick break. I'll be back with more after this.
On Kaya 959.
With Pamela Mutine.
What's yours?
The Gauteng Legislature is working to improve the lives of all Gauteng residents. Don't miss the roundtable discussion with the 4 chairpersons of the Economic Transformation Cluster, live on Point of View between 8 and 10 p.m. Well, thank you so much for staying with us. We continue our live broadcast from the Gauteng Legislature as I am speaking to the various committee chairs in the Economic Transformation Cluster. And really, we're just shooting the breeze and trying to understand what it is that they do, essentially. So I'll reintroduce the guests as Honourable Jaco Mulder, who's the chair of the Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development Portfolio Committee, Honourable Andy Swam Musai, who's a portfolio chair of the Finance Committee, and Honourable Tulani Ndlovu, who's the chair of Infrastructure Development Portfolio Committee, and Honourable Greg Schneeman, who is the chair of the Transport and Logistics Portfolio Committee. So let me ask about the priorities. I'll come back to you, Honourable Greg Schneeman. The priorities of your portfolio committee this financial year. Just maybe give us top line what it is that you feel should be adhered to, addressed, and prioritized.
Well, thanks again. And a number of the priorities that are there for this coming financial year. The one that I think has been a big thing on the radar screens of motorists in Gauteng is the functioning of traffic signals.
Yes.
That's a big one.
Yes.
There's a significant amount of money that's been made available, so that's a priority. The other big priority is to finish a lot of the incomplete projects. The Sebokeng DLTC, Driver License Testing Centre, the Vereniging Taxi Rank, the Beyers Nordeer Drive upgrade, the K54 Mamelodi. So those are some of the projects that are underway. The R82.
Yeah.
So finishing these major projects which had been standing idle for quite some time. Then there's also the issue of taxi violence that had been plaguing our province, and is just recently established. The department has recently established an inspectorate with 96 traffic or officers from the Road Traffic Management Corporation, and their role is going to be as an inspectorate to help deal with these issues of taxi violence and issues that are raising in the taxi industry. The other big one is the expansion of the Gautrain. And, there's a lot of work that needs to be done so that we can start to, as soon as possible, see shovels in the ground.
Yeah.
And then probably the other one is really the issues of road safety on our roads and adherence to the rules of the road.
How do we make sure, I think Honourable Mulder spoke to this earlier, how do we make sure we prioritize things that are not necessarily already a problem? And I want to speak to, you spoke about taxi violence now. I'm nervous about e-hailing services and their agitation. And I get the feeling that because we haven't yet seen the kind of violence that I think we've seen perhaps in other areas, we kind of are just leaving them, we'll get back to them. As an oversight role that you have, how do you proactively nudge departments to say, hey, are you watching this? Have you got your eyes on the ball? To what extent are you actually talking to maybe the companies that are the e-hailing companies, as an example?
Well, part of the work that we've been doing as a portfolio committee over the last while has been to engage with the department on the issues of taxi violence. We have already also raised the issues of the e-hailing services and some of the challenges there. And the department, under the leadership of the MEC Kiriboni Diali Tlabela, they've put in place what they call a crisis committee that meets on a regular basis on a Friday morning.
I believe every week.
Yes, yeah. And they engage with the players in the taxi industry and the e-hailing services. And that's a forum that they use to address some of the real challenges and to try and find solutions. So, I mean, from a portfolio committee side, we would be satisfied that the department is taking these areas seriously enough to have established that crisis committee and those engagements. And obviously, as a committee, we will also be asking the department just to take us into confidence as to some of the interventions and some of the measures that are being put in place to curb the violence, not only within the taxi industry, but the violence that has been taking place even on the e-hailing services themselves and amongst themselves. So I think for us, for now, we would be satisfied that steps are being taken, but for us, it's going to be about the detail.
Honourable Ndlovu, and I think this is an issue for everybody. In a way, all these departments are intertwined in many, many, many ways. And I think this is where some of your challenges come in as portfolio committees, where sometimes you are directed at another department. So your department would say, yes, we hear you as a portfolio committee, but our challenges stem from X, Y, Z. How efficient is comms and communication internally? I'm not saying to us necessarily, but how efficient do you feel that departments are working together?
Well, I'll respond on behalf of committees that indeed we are working together as committees. I mean, even recently there are measures that we are trying to implement. I think in petitions we have agreed that all petitions must be linked to other committees so that the committees may also do oversight on those petitions. But yes, at the level of government, you sometimes get responses that do not make sense and responses that questions the intergovernmental relations. And we believe there is still a lot that can be done. It is there, it is working, but it must improve so that the information flows correctly. I mean, you will find a department is building a school on behalf of the Department of Education, but yet the municipality does not want to approve certain things because remember, before you even build, there are zonings, there are compliances and those things, and you end up blaming the one that you are doing oversight over because you only have that road which is limited. But really it is that there is room for improvement on issues of intergovernmental relations, and we believe a lot must be done in that regard.
I must tell you, I appreciate how cordial you are with this response because actually, to be fair and honest, I found that portfolio committees work very well together. Behind closed doors, I think all of you get on very fine. I think it is the problems are in government. It's another story altogether. But seriously, Honourable Milda, I mean, I say this and it's a little bit funny, but it's not in the sense that even how you are clustered in a way, for me, sometimes is problematic. So there is this cluster, we'll call it economic in transformation cluster. But I can see, for instance, how your portfolio has to interact with, I don't know, social development, for instance. Food security is a thing. and how it cannot be isolated. The role that your department that you have oversight over cannot be sit in isolation. And maybe just talk a little bit to me about the challenges, particularly in your oversight role, in having these very these silos in a way sometimes of we all want the same things, but we are working alone, not together.
Yeah, thank you for that. Well, we had experience today in our committee that although the topic at hand was environment, it was about a housing project in a rural area of Gauteng where no proper water treatment plant has been installed up till now, which might be the reason for a later river course pollution as we find in other areas, and that's what we try to prevent. So housing came into play. So a large number of the stakeholders present were very, very upset about the neglect and the fact that the housing project is stalled, but it is because the water treatment plant is not completed. So the portfolio committee, like I mentioned earlier, always also acts proactively because everything has to be in place. So housing came to play today. So I undertook to contact the chairperson of housing, for instance, and I advised the stakeholders present to even go as far as a petition to the housing portfolio committee. Just one example.
Honourable Masai, I suppose you see this a lot more in your oversight role, where different departments would point the finger at different departments. We couldn't move on this because we were waiting for those ones. We couldn't move on that because we were waiting for... Just in reality, as the portfolio committee that looks over finance, how real is that problem?
It is real, but what we do as the portfolio committee, because we understand our role is that of doing oversight, we inform that it's an executive decision that they need to make and they need to implement. In fact, we are able to even call on, and convene the Premier through whether it's Scopa or whether through finance, for him to be able to, to inform the committees what is it that he's planning to do. If the department, because remember the executives get their mandate from the Premier, they're actually implementing on behalf of the Premier. So it is the Premier and the Director General who must make sure that all these HODs are able to implement, and when they do have these challenges, then he can intervene.
All right. I've asked people to call in, so they've hit the call. It's 600000959, and we can also take voice notes on 063-688-0959. Gary, you are calling from Johannesburg. Good evening, and thank you so much for calling.
Thank you, my lady, and good evening to your guest. I don't have a lot to ask. I just have 2 questions or a statement. I just wanted to find out, the oversight committees, do they do oversight only when problems arise? And number 2, because some of the stories don't make the news, because the only oversight committees we normally hear about is when it's making news. For argument's sake, the gas explosion that happened in Bree. But I just wanted to find out, do they only do oversight when there's problems? And where can we as the public access the findings or the reports of their oversight having been done? And number 2, can they, any of the guests there, please give us a success story of very recent that we may not know about, where there were problems that they have intervened and the outcome was favorable.
All right, thank you so much. That's Gary there in Johannesburg. And Arnold Sherman, I see you nodding. I think I'll give you the honor of responding to Gary.
Thank you very much, and very good evening to Gary, and thank you very much for the comments and the questions. I think the first question is, no, we don't do oversight only where there's problems. We go where there's good stories as well. So let me just give an example of that. In Attridgeville, the department a couple of months ago opened what they call a smart licensing center. The first of its kind, moving into what would have been what are established township areas and taking services closer to people.
What's a smart center?
It's a smart licensing center, so use of technology, to make the flow of people through those centres efficient and effective, where they can go and renew their car license discs, pay their traffic fines, renew their driver's license, do their eye tests. Some of them have facilities to actually do your learner's test there as well.
Okay. So the facility itself has moved on quite a bit technologically.
That's correct. That's correct. So success story, where we've gone to do an oversight visit, go and assess how it's working. Is it actually meeting the needs of people? So that's the part that so it's not just a problem. It's a good news story. We've gone to visit it. We've gone to check up on it.
I think part of what Gary's also asking is, how do people find you? Honourable Mulder, how do people sometimes who feel like the issue has been going on and on and on, they've gone to the media, they've yelled, they've screamed, they've protested, which I think to some extent we need to start walking away from in disrupting infrastructure. How do people find you directly so that these things can be dealt with before there's chaos?
Yes, thank you. It often happens that councillors from various political parties or members of public, business, and other stakeholders contact me as a chairperson to tell me, look, I've contacted the local government without any success, even contacted the provincial department with any success, so please help, assist, can you help? And so often we do that now. How do I find us? They can only have a look at the Gauteng Legislature's website, and they will find all the information of all the members and of all the portfolio committee members and their contact numbers there as well, and to which disciplines they are designated to.
Honourable Mosai, maybe in another way, the question is it a bureaucratic process? Can a person just send you a WhatsApp note and say, you know what, we're fed up, and you'll pick up on it? Or are you going to tell them, write us an email, write a petition? What's the process?
I think when you're a public servant, you need to be of service to people. It doesn't matter whether it's formal or informal. So I think I would give an example with the way I handle, when people do approach me. If they do send me a WhatsApp message, because I am in contact with the other chairperson, I will be able to send that and be able to get all the information that they need so that they can get in touch with them and be able to tell them what process they need to follow. So on the legislature website, there is a petition system that we have. So there is a chairperson of petitions who will be able to also address the issues that they have. That committee is able to go and do an oversight on the matter, and is able to also direct all the reports or all the cases, to other portfolio committees. And the speaker will actually refer all those reports to us. That is why Member Ndlovu was also saying that in each and every agenda item, each and every committee will have an item on petitions. So that's how we're able to do that. But also because we do interact with the local government, local municipalities, we're able to pick up a call and say, Mayor so and so, in your municipality there is such an issue. And then you are able to get information and direct the people on where they should go so that they can get attended to.
Honourable Ndlovu, I think it just takes you looking at the number of protests that are ongoing every single day to know that something is not right. Can it be easier to get a response from people like yourselves?
To be quite honest, it is very easy. While we deal with these things on a daily basis, we engage with stakeholders, we do feedback sessions in communities, we go around our communities and take reports back to them. And sometimes you are coming to deal with issues that are in relation to building of a clinic, because it's where I do oversight on. But then people, they are asking about the service that the clinic offers. And I'm actually not a health oversight committee. We are just the builders. We are doing oversight over those who are actually doing the construction. But then we are able to say, no, the chair of health is this person, here is the number, then link up. And where there is a need, because remember, we also work with what we call the term program here in government. On a quarterly basis, we must have a certain program. So the program will say, we have done Johannesburg in the past quarter. This quarter, we are doing Ekurhuleni. But that does not mean when you find issues from Johannesburg, you can't deal with them. So we are available. You can follow us on social media. There is a legislature page on Instagram. There is a legislature page on Facebook. I know sometimes we go live on YouTube when we have activities. So you can find us there. But moreover, we visit communities. But obviously, we can't just go to Togoza when we don't have a project that is happening by the department that we are doing oversight in. So if there is a school, a clinic, or any other infrastructure program, then we are going to visit those areas. And then you can find us in the community through that arrangement. But generally, you can follow the legislature social media links. Then you are able to find out about our program and what we normally do on a daily basis.
We continue our conversation with the Economic Transformation Cluster here in Gauteng at the Gauteng Legislature. As I said, coming to you live from here this evening, and we're going to be doing this for some time. And so you are really, really welcome to call in, ask your questions as well on 086 00 00959. You can also send a voice note on 063 688 0959. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back after this.
Kaya Talk.
Kaya Talk.
How much more
On the street.
information does anybody need?
On the air.
Gauteng. Learn more about what the Gauteng Provincial Legislature is doing to improve your life. This is Point of View.
Point of View.
Monday to Thursday.
8 to 10 p.m.
Kaya 959. 959.
On the street.
On the air.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us as we come to you live from the Economic Transformation Cluster. I'd call it our little meeting. It's not the official meeting. It's our little meeting, our Point of View meeting. And we're discussing really just more seriously the work that they do here at the Gauteng Legislature and the roles that they play as different portfolio committee chairs and some of the issues that have come up. You and I engage with these things every single day. And so it was really good to have a moment to talk about how is it that government connects to us and who really would be the intermediary. And I think these people here, the portfolio committees, are the gap between government and ourselves. So I want to talk about, I spoke earlier about the challenges that all of you face in your portfolio committees. And I'm thinking now of, let's say you have a project, you have all these wonderful roads that you need to complete. And then here I come with my nefarious agenda, and at night as we sit here, I'm ripping off the road, the work that you're doing. The portfolio committee on finance has tried to make sure that the Gauteng Finance allocates money for that project, and yet I then come and destroy all of that and we're back at square one. So it doesn't matter how much planning there is. If we don't have security, for instance, to manage all of the work that you're doing, we are almost at square one. Just talk to us about the challenges. Number one, maybe not that the other departments are not doing their jobs, but perhaps also the responsibility that us as the community, as people have in making sure that we take accountability for the progress that we want to see government actually make. Maybe we'll start with you, Honourable Mulder.
Yes, thank you. We must remember that Gauteng, although it's a very small province, approximately 19,000 square kilometers, is the economic hub of South Africa. More than a quarter of all South Africans, more than 25%, live in this province. Because there's economic activity, it attracts a lot of people from other provinces and other countries, not always for the good reasons. So even people with hasn't got good intentions come to this province because they can do their business here. So yes, infrastructure has been damaged.
Yeah.
Water infrastructure, water treatment plants, fences, road. We even see construction mafia active in Gauteng. So unfortunately, crime is a huge challenge. one of the biggest challenges of all times, and it affects everybody. It affects finances. It affects every living soul in this province.
Yep.
Unfortunately, yes.
Because I mean, it doesn't really matter how we feel about the police. There just is not possible to have a police at every street corner. It's just not feasible. Nowhere in the world is it possible to have a policeman at every street corner. I do want to go back to your calls. We've got Lusanda here from Soweto. Lusanda, thank you so much for your patience. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, thank you. I heard a lot of your involvement in petition. My question is, what is the legislature doing to make sure that communities understand the work of petitions? Because I think a lot of the time our communities is not protesting because they're unaware of other areas such as petitioning against all sorts of things that they want. So I just want to know, how are they creating awareness around the work that is done by the Petitions Committee? Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Honorable Ndlovu, I mean, I don't know if you were able to hear, but she's saying, what do you do to make communities aware of the work that you are doing? You know, even when you do go and visit, that you are going to be here, and whatever feedback, good or bad, how do you inform communities of what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, Lusanda. In responding to that, as I said, we go to communities. And as we go to communities, we make sure that we publicize our activity as we go to communities. But when we go to communities, even when we are going to do a feedback or a quarterly report or a roundtable discussion, we have what we call the public outreach program in the office. And those that team then arrives and teach the community about the legislature work. And that team also generally has its own program, which is moving around the province and teaching about what is legislature and what does it do. So we do have a public outreach program, of which their duty is to do that. But us as members, as we go to communities, we must always explain. You would understand, we said when we began, people don't know who's government. People don't know who's legislature. When they see a person who is for government, or
you are government.
You are just government.
You are government.
Whether you are a mayor or you are a premier or you are a member of the legislature, you are government. So in also doing that explanation, we believe we are teaching communities to understand things better, because it can only be that. Once our people understand better, then they can understand the separation. But if we don't do much in teaching the people in terms of the work that we do, then people won't understand or won't know. But yes, we do have a team here in office. We run around with them. Sometimes in communities where we believe they won't even understand, we dispatch the team even before, so that they go and prepare communities in terms of understanding. So there is work that we are doing. But yes, I believe that there is room for improvement.
Honorable Masai, I'm going to put you in a very tight corner. Is our problem lack of money or how we manage the money we have?
It's a good question, Epiman. It's not lack of money. It's how we manage the resources that we have. I think that's what I can tell you. I'm saying this because we last week, as the portfolio committee of I think it was COPA, the other portfolio committee that I'm in, we realized that the department, I think that's Department of Infrastructure, they were saying that they are operating on a deficit. They're operating on a deficit because there are certain projects that were not paid for by another department, And when we informed the Premier and the DG who informed us that they will be able to go and sit down with both HODs of the two departments, so that there is that management of the budget. So if money is not spent according to the way it has been budgeted for, then we call that mismanagement, and that is our job to make sure that we do an oversight on all these departments.
I had earlier on, I think I interrupted our conversation, Honourable Mulder, where we were talking about the intersections between some departments, and which I think makes life quite difficult. But I suspect one portfolio committee that's not here, security cluster, let me call it that, makes all of your jobs quite interesting in a way. To what extent do you interact amongst yourselves as portfolio committees? How much do you feed back to one another about some of the things that you would need assistance on?
Yes, one of the mechanisms that's available is what we call the Chairpersons Review. 2 or 3 weeks ago, all the chairpersons met.
Yes.
Under the chair of chairs, Honourable Dalton Adams, and that's we actually give feedback on what we're doing and sharing our experiences and worries with each other. And present in that meeting is also the Auditor General, the Human Rights Commission, and the Public Service Commission. So there's a real proper forum to communicate with each other in that way.
How often do you see each other?
I think it's quarterly. Yeah.
Quarterly.
End of each quarter, more or less.
Honourable Musai?
Yes, I wanted to add on that, because as the Finance Portfolio Committee, we are able to do oversight on all the departments.
That's it, yeah.
So it means then when we convene these departments and the MEC are coming to come and respond to certain questions, we also invite the chairpersons of those portfolio committee so that then they're able to also understand what is it that we would require from those departments and what is needed to be implemented. So we don't have to wait. We don't have to wait for a formal meeting for us to be able to interact, but also can also have joint committee meetings together. For example, finance can have a meeting with COCTA as well, because we also do oversight over the work that the Gauteng Provincial Treasury does in terms of giving support to the municipalities. And we also do oversight on what COCTA does in terms of giving support to those municipalities. So we oversee all the departments. So it's really, really easy for us to interact. We don't have to wait for formal meetings.
Honourable Chairman, I want to ask you, we've been talking about the work you do when you step out. Honourable Ndlozi has spoken about that a lot, when you go to communities and so on. I'm more concerned about the earlier stages, how people can be part of government. You know what I mean? When we are at the very onset, when we discuss and debate even the budget itself, not after the fact. How do we get people to engage with government better?
Well, I think part of that is through the committee system, where we engage on the budget. The challenge is that when we engage on the budget with departments, that budget has already been set.
That's my point.
Now,
that's it, yeah.
Now, so let me just step back a bit. When I used to be a member of Parliament, a process was put in place, a joint budget committee that eventually became a whole budget office around that. And the intention was to be able to have people make inputs before the budget is finalized. And that process is starting here in the provincial legislature. That will enable members of the public in Gauteng to be able to make inputs on how that money should be spent and on where it should be spent before that decision is actually made. And if I can just say, it's part of, I think, it's probably a frustration for portfolio committees at times as well. Because when we get to deal with the budget,
it's after the fact.
When it's already been finalized.
That's it,
and it'll probably enable committees as well to make an input to say, no, we don't think you should spend the money there. You should spend it here. And this is what you should spend it on. So it's a process that's underway. And I think once it's put in place, it'll also make citizens of Gauteng feel much more part of the budgeting process.
Because in a way, for me, it's acknowledging that we may not be able to do everything at the same time, at the same rate. We can all prioritize. Okay, we have this pot, and maybe for Honourable Mulder, maybe food security is more important. Maybe we can prioritize, climate change as being something that's really, a real risk right now, because we see what happens with the floods and so on. But when you engage communities, then they themselves are part of the prioritization of what goes on in the discussions, and then they don't come at you with everything all at the same time. What's your thought on that?
Yes, I think it's very important that the public at large and the citizens of South Africa and this province should be part of it. I think at the moment the nearest way for them to engage is at local government level, where public participation processes are being conducted. For instance, with the integrated development plans, etc., etc. And then the committees are also holding public participation processes. The committee that I'm chairing has done a couple of them, where we're taking Parliament to the people. We invite the people of the community to come to the meeting. And one of the things that we discussed at the Chair of Chairs review meeting was that these meetings should not always be held in times where certain people are at work, for instance. So, we will be attending the people who are not working.
Yeah.
So we've really discussed all these options and in order to get a better dispensation.
You make that point seem small, but it's a very important point about how you engage the public. Maybe I'll ask you, Onondlovu, because you have to take in consideration so many things. Even how we conduct ourselves, and you said you sometimes send a team out before yourselves to engage, language that we use, how are we willing to distill the information in such a way that the information is properly understood? How patient are we? As I said, the process is too complex, and sometimes we need to be honest and engage with whether the process is too complex. What about somebody who is illiterate and wants to engage government and is fed up,
No, thank you. Remember, by law, we're expected to involve the people who vote for us. So whether we like it or not, they must form part. Chairperson Craig is correct. The program destroys what we want to do, because sometimes the program you call people after having
been told.
Sometimes we must go and do a feedback session and the money is already finished. Yes, yeah. And people, even if they say no, but reprioritize and do 1, 2, 3, you can't even do it. So it's to change systems and definitely work differently. We can't go to a house, approve a budget when we have not done consultation. So it means the budget vote must start with this interview and ask us questions. Where have they failed? How are people going to get you? Where are your public outreach programs where you are going to engage about the budget or the annual performance plans for next year? So it must start in that fashion, and then the other processes then join later. But the way we are working behind the program. Even when we agree that we are approving 3.6 billion, the 3.6 billion is already working somewhere. So it's like we are working in silos. So we need to work together, and working together, programs must be synchronized. They must start where it must start, with the consultation, public participation. Then we do our own things after. But the way we are working, the program is indeed the one that is disadvantaging our work.
I need to take a quick break, and I'll be back with more of your questions as well and comments. 086 00 00959, and you can send voice notes on 063 688 0959.
Voice note your point of view on WhatsApp.
063 688 0959.
Kaya.
959. On the street.
On the air.
So I've got an issue. I don't understand, with all the problems that we have as a country, yet we've got people who are conducting oversight. Where and when do they conduct these oversights? Because I'll give a simple example. As we speak, my grandfather and my grandmother, they are without electricity. It's been about 3 weeks to a month now. So my grandfather went to Eskom. They told him he must pay 6,000. He goes and withdraws and he pays the 6,000. Then they tell him, no, he's the only one that has paid. All other people must pay. Now he's sitting without electricity. He has paid money. So I don't understand. Is this something that your guests there, they deal with? If yes, can they tell me how to go about it?
Well, that's a voice note from Amanda. Thank you so much, Amanda, there. And we continue our conversation with the Economic Transformation Cluster. We are at the Gauteng Legislature this evening. So that's where we're broadcasting from. And it's getting a little tough. The questions are getting tough. In conversation with Honorable Yaku Mulder, who is the chair of the Portfolio Committee on Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development, Honorable Andiswa Musai, who is a Portfolio Chair of Finance, Honorable Tulani Ndlovu, Portfolio Chair of Infrastructure Development, and Honorable Greg Schneemann, who is the Portfolio Chair of Transport and Logistics. So it's getting tough, guys. A fair question. Who wants to take it? Honorable Ndlovu?
No, thanks. Maybe in trying to respond to, I think you said Manda or Amanda.
I think it's Manda, yeah.
Yes. It's something that we spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
What is government?
Yes.
Yeah. So everything becomes government to people, and it's not wrong. Our people don't know, and you can't then blame them. Unfortunately, we come from provincial legislature. One is that Eskom is a national competence. It has its own minister, but it does not have an MEC, a member of executive council in the province, and therefore makes it difficult for us to say anything in relation to Eskom, rather than to advise and say, maybe a person must call you. What we'll do is that after the show, we'll try and avail the contacts of people that must assist or at Eskom. But most importantly, is to work closely with your councillors. The councillors, they do have contacts. Where it's Eskom that is servicing, councillors do have contacts of people who may assist. But remember that beside national as Eskom, electricity is also provided by the municipalities, which is not also our space. So it's either whether it's a municipality or it's national, it's not a provincial competence. And it's unfortunate that we can't do an oversight over such, unless if they are building a tower or a substation, which is its infrastructure, then we'll be doing an oversight over there. The project when it happens, but when it is done by the department. But where it's national competency or regional or municipal competency, unfortunately, we can't, we are limited to do work. We can only advise.
I've got another voice note coming through.
I don't want to hear anything from the government. Pimelo, I'm done with government. I'm doing my own thing at my own time. They fail me ka RDP, ke mo South Africa. Malawi na RDP, Lesotho na RDP, Mozambique na RDP, Nigeria na RDP, Malawi na RDP. Now South Africa ke na yona. Why? Banale more than one or two. And then what? Bad with occupied in body regisa, body no action is being taken. Now I'm done. That's South Africa government. It's our not say.
It's not looking good. Eh? It's not looking good. I mean, geez. And I think that's it. You know, Honorable Mulder spoke a little bit earlier on about transparency, I suppose, just to contextualize it. And I suppose this is part of this. The reason we're having this conversation is to help people understand where you come in, where other departments come in, and so how all of us can better find government a bit more accessible. Is it disheartening hearing this level of frustration from South Africans?
It is, in fact, and I might, if we're going to be honest, I think we all feel a bit like that. I can't blame the public for feeling like that. I mean, even if we public representatives and chairpersons, we
experience life in South Africa.
We all experience the same. We all got our frustrations. So I can really stand in for what she's feeling.
Honorable Masai, when you do the work that you do, and you do, you get the reports and all of the things that you get from the departments that report to you, and you also go down to the level of the people, what are you hearing on the ground?
I think what the caller has just said now, people there's an erosion of trust, and people are hopeless. But I want to maybe assure, people out there that the work that we do as a legislature is very good, because when we do oversight, I'll make an example about, I was in the cocktail committee today. We were in Mfuleni today. And one of the questions I also raised was that I can see that there's a lot of work that you are doing in terms of, the support that you are given by both national and the province. And you are informing us this is where you are in terms of the plans, whether it's the financial recovery plan, whether now you've reduced UIFWs, but out there, people do not know the work that you're doing, because people are interested about things that affect them, service delivery issues, whether it's waste management issues, it's water management, So you need to be able to go out there and have public meetings and inform people so that people know where to go. But what is important as well, I think what the caller is also saying, the callers are saying that when they go and ask for intervention or help in the departments, the frontline service delivery is not good, because they are not being treated well. So for us, really, we're not happy. We're not happy about the suppliers that are not being paid on time. Within 30 days, the invoices are not being paid, and some are forced to even close their companies. So that is the oversight that we do. We want to be able to understand in each and every department, when are you paying the suppliers? So you must be able to pay them. So that's what we do.
Honorable Shneman, what are your concerns with the experience that you have in your role as a portfolio chair?
Well, I think probably one of the biggest concerns that we have at the moment is probably two. One is the functionality of traffic signals. It's a big concern to us. And the second one is the vandalism of our infrastructure. And if I can just amplify the issue of traffic signals and vandalism, many of the traffic signals were not working at a particular point in time in the recent past because of vandalism. And that for us is a huge concern, because so government or the department will spend money on repairing a traffic signal, and tomorrow morning it's vandalized and no longer working. And so that's probably one of our biggest concerns that we have, is that we can't have a situation where government continuously spends money on the same thing.
This is it.
And then it gets vandalized. And so we have concerns about scrap metal dealers, unscrupulous scrap metal dealers. We are concerned about individuals that are going around destroying government property, because what it does, it makes less and less money available to implement new projects, because now we're having to spend money on fixing things. And coupled with that is also, particularly you'll see it on a Friday night and a Saturday night, where robots and street lights all over just get knocked down. And we have a concern about that as well, because of the negligent driving behavior of motorists. And we've gone to the extent now, we've recommended to the department, they need to look at ways how we can hold motorists liable where they damage infrastructure and just drive off and leave it lying on the road and expect the state to pay. And as a portfolio committee, we are of the firm view that one of the measures that must come in is that if a motorist, through negligent driving behavior, accident, whatever it is, they must be held liable for those costs, and they must pay, because the state cannot continue to pay and replace infrastructure that somebody else has damaged.
I know that you're not the right person to ask, but let me ask it anyway. What happened to the materials being used for street poles and traffic lights and so on, being the kind of materials that you couldn't take anymore and resell them to the scrap dealers? Wasn't that part of the plan?
Yes, it is. And already in terms of traffic signals and cabling, They've started to replace some of the cabling, which has been copper up until now. They've started to use materials such as aluminium, which is helping to reduce the levels of vandalism because there's no demand to buy aluminium. It's not the demand is not as high as copper. So yes, they are looking at other alternatives that can reduce the levels of vandalism. But unfortunately, we have individuals in society who actually just vandalize for the sake of vandalize, and just want to destroy. And so that's probably one of the challenges that we have is how do we catch these people? How do we put them behind bars for destroying infrastructure? But the Provincial Department of Transport, roping in the CSIR and universities as well, are looking at all sorts of alternative technologies that can be used that are going to be of no use to whether it be scrap merchant dealers or to individuals to take those parts because they won't be able to use them elsewhere. So that is being looked at. It's starting to happen. And we are starting to see in certain areas less vandalism taking place on cables being stolen, etc.
Honourable Ndlovu, there's a case, and this case dates way before your time in the portfolio, so it's not directed at you, but maybe an understanding of when oversight fails, then what? There's a case, I think, with a school that has been now taken over by residents, I think in Soweto, because the school was empty for about 10 years. The school had been, I don't want to use the word abandoned, but let's call it abandoned by the Department of Education, because the community no longer thought the school was good enough to go to. So they stopped going to that school, and so it was empty for a while. And then because it was empty, the community decided to now go and live in the school. It is 10 years later. And what you're hearing between the two departments is the one department saying, and this is where you come in, education didn't hand it back to infrastructure so that infrastructure could know what to do with it, and so on and so on. My concern is that it was 10 years. It's 10 years of this problem. Communities that have housed themselves there are saying, well, we've been here for 10 years. What do you want us to do now? Right? And so when oversight fails in that way, then what?
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to say oversight failed. We must say government might have not done correct in time. This is what happens, and the community is correct to say education didn't, or the Department of Infrastructure is correct to say they didn't give it back to us, because this is how things happen. Infrastructure comes and builds the school, and once the school is built, it gives it to the Department of Education, so that Department of Education can use it because they want a school. And once the school is no longer used, the Department of Infrastructure must be informed that there is an immovable asset, so that they put it back to the immovable asset register as a non-used school. And I can tell you, it's not the last one.
Yes.
We may.
I'll give an example.
We may have the interview next time, and you say those schools are now 2 or 3 or even 4. Because you get it when you come and do an oversight at a certain school. You then meet a group of NGOs that are saying we have a school also in the area which we can use proactively and progressively, but it is starting to be used by criminals or thugs, or kids are starting to play in that vicinity. So ours is to say to government, can you do something right there? Because if the school is there and it's not used, where there's vacuum, people take it into their own hands. So they'll use it. But what I can only say to your question is that our government must investigate and do correct by those people. It's very sad that people can stay 10 years in a government property and no one says anything. It raises serious concerns. in terms of the executive and the department in terms of what is expected there. Because I can tell you, maybe they've built a new school, because we don't just close schools. We can have a Ralogile High here, and when it gets when it gets to be destroyed, we then look for a certain land and still build Ralogile High if we can't renovate in the same place. But then government must then give back that, the education department must give back to the infrastructure, so that the infrastructure can decide whether you dispose it, you auction it. There are ways that they make revenues. Sometimes they sell properties, sometimes they rent them out with a lease. Because if we also don't use these properties, and our community, they need them for progressive things, then we are losing the plot.
I want us to wrap it and maybe allow you to, to have your parting shot. And no doubt, I think this will not be a last conversation. Honorable Mulder, just perhaps maybe your parting shot and what it is that you feel that you really need to say to the public out there.
Yeah, what we need to say to the public is that that we all need to take co-responsibility for our future. Don't leave it for government. Neither of us should do it. Nobody should do it. Get involved with government, with public participation processes in your communities. Hold government accountable. And that's what we as committee chairs are there for. And although we all feel a bit negative from time to time, so we're here to serve the people of this province. And let me end with this saying. There was a saying once, saying that in the end everything will be all right. If it's not all right, it's not the end yet. Thank you.
Honorable Mosai, your parting shot.
No, thank you very much, really, for having us. I think we are encouraged that the public out there is beginning to understand the work of the legislature, and this is not the first and the last time that we will be. We're going to different radio stations and social media. They must please go on our social media pages. That we are committed as the Portfolio Committee of Finance. We are overlooking Gauteng Provincial Treasury, the annual performance, and we do oversight on quarterly basis and also annually. So we also do oversight on the work that the Gauteng Provincial Treasury is doing over the municipalities. And we understand that the government departments, in fact, the organs of state, do owe municipalities. And therefore, it does have, a burden on the municipalities. And we are looking into those matters. I want to make sure that the municipalities are being paid what is due, so that then they are able to make a revenue as well. So we're happy that we were here, and we're hoping that they will utilize the services of Gauteng Provincial Legislature. But we will definitely make sure that in terms of public participation, we do get them involved. We want them to get involved in terms of the bills, because we are also dealing with lawmaking.
Yes.
So when we advertise, most of the time we advertise the provincial appropriation bill or the division of revenue bill, and people are not participating, and we want them to
Don't worry,
participate.
that's our next discussion when I see you next.
Thank you.
Honorable Chairman, your parting shot.
No, once again, thank you very much for the opportunity tonight, and thanks for being able to answer some of the questions. I think two things I'd like to the message I'd like to get out is that through the Department of Roads and Transport in Gauteng, we're moving into higher degrees of innovation. We're taking services, or they are taking services, closer to the people. I mentioned smart licensing centers, and one was opened today, and the Protea Mall, and would encourage people to use those services. But my final message is I want to encourage all users of the road, whether you drive a car, a bus, a taxi, a truck, a motorbike, can you please obey the rules of the road? If there's a speed limit, can you stick to the speed limit? Because speed kills. And finally, please don't consume alcohol and drive, because not only are you endangering your own life, you're endangering the lives of others. Thanks.
Honorable Ndlovu.
Thank you very much. Without saying much, but I would I would raise one, which is a worry, that the committee is very worried with the litigations against the Department of Infrastructure Development and Property Management. And we hope that the department can work smarter and in a different way to avoid these things, because the unnecessary expenditure, it's a cost of taxpayers, and we are very worried. But lastly, to say to our people, partake in our events. I heard earlier you mentioned the issues of language barrier.
Yes.
As the legislature, we are forced to have interpreters. So when we do these public outreach programs, we give our stakeholders these gadgets that you are wearing. They can interpret into languages that we are comfortable with. So in every event that is organized by this institution, we'll make sure that you also get the interpreters, and people must participate. This is their future. They vote us in, so they need to participate to the life of the institution, so that they understand that there is an arm that implements and there is an arm that makes laws. Thank you.
Lady and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I know it's been a long day and you are willing to stay up all night with us. Thank you for making time for us and making government accessible. I really appreciate it. As we come to you live from the Gauteng Legislature, and we are in conversation with the Economic Transformation Cluster.
Kaya Talk.
Kaya Talk.
How much more
On the street.
information does anybody need?
On the air.
The Gauteng Legislature is working to improve the lives of all Gauteng residents. Don't miss the roundtable discussion with the 4 chairpersons of the Economic Transformation Cluster, live on Point of View between 8 and 10 p.m.
Click kaya959.co.za.
This is how we do it. To download the Point of View podcast,